Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better, and I am excited to bring you our guest today, who is a unique blend of creativity, expertise, and passion for results-driven strategies. Joining us is a digital virtuoso whose lifelong journey of creativity and curiosity has led him to master the art of leveraging psychology and social dynamics, and of course, human behavior to drive business growth. With a background deeply rooted in music, video production, photography, and graphic design, their creative prowess is unparalleled. But what truly sets our guest apart is his insatiable thirst for knowledge and his unwavering commitment to delivering tangible results. While others may boast about their skills and interests, our guest cuts through the noise with a simple promise to show you how you can help your business grow using little-known strategies that have propelled some of the biggest brands in history to success for centuries. Rather than just talk the talk, they are all about walking the walk. He invites you to reach out, hop on a call, and experience firsthand how his expertise can transform your business trajectory. And if it doesn't fit right, you'll be ready to embark on a journey of growth and collaboration together. If not, he'll show you who can help you. So without further ado, let's dive into the world of digital innovation and strategic growth with the one, the only, Devon Jones. Devon, thank you so much for being here.
Phil, it's a pleasure.
Glad to have you back. We talked about the housing stuff last time. Now we're going to just talk about business. And I want to know, why did you start Seven Tree Media?
Oh, that's a crazy story. It started out as a completely different business and a completely different idea, and very quickly evolved into what it is. It started with me deciding to branch out from music and marketing in that space to other businesses, other verticals, taking some of the skills, and I call them the transferable skills and things that I learned along the way, branding and selling the intangible over into the world where there was a little bit more commerce, there was a little bit more money to spend, there was a little bit more opportunity. And so the first step for me was to set up and establish a personal brand. So after some thought on the whole situation, what I landed on was the business rebel. So I took this idea that rules are merely guidelines, and in the space of building a business and doing marketing, there are rules that everybody follows, and I was of the school of thought that those rules were hindering the way that we could potentially do business. And so bringing some of those creative ideas into the space of business, I started up a podcast called the Business Rebel Podcast. And that led me to interview a few people. One of those people was my now ex-partner, who helped me kind of co-found Seven Tree Media. So the idea was that we were going to take this idea of a sustainable content model, which was kind of a term that I coined way back in the day. And we were going to help businesses leverage the idea of creating content online to help build brand and awareness for their business, and then use data-driven retargeting strategies to help connect with the most engaged members of their audience to inspire them to purchase products or services from businesses. So in other words, it's what you and I are doing right now.
Don't give the secret away.
Yeah. Having a podcast, having conversations with cool people, and all of it in an attempt to provide value for a mutually shared audience. And so we launched it in 2019. We ran with the idea for a couple of years. We had a car dealership. We worked a little bit with some brands, big brands like A&W and Sundog and things like that, just doing consulting. And eventually it got overwhelming, and there was a lot going on, and me and my partner kind of separated ways, and I ended up kind of carrying the rest of Seven Tree forward, and adapted some new models, and changed a few things around, created some new systems and processes, and here we are.
I love that. I want to touch on the systems and processes because that is something a lot of entrepreneurs, when they're still solo, forget to create because they're just pretty much running by the seat of their pants at sometimes when they're starting. When you jumped into this space, the were you aware of how beneficial the procedures and policies and all that fun technical business stuff was to your business?
I had no idea how valuable having systems and processes was going to be. And it's funny because my partner used to make fun of me for being the robot. And he would this is interesting. There's a book that he read that he shared with me. It's called Rocket Fuel. And the idea is that there's two types of people in business. One of them is visionary, and one
Mhm.
of is an integrator. And for the longest time, being in the music business, the things that you need, recording time, mixing and mastering, creating a music video, marketing yourself, all the moving parts, it gets very expensive very quickly. And so you had to figure out along the way some of the stuff that you needed. And I needed to get really efficient at doing these things. And so over time, I took some of these, higher level in the clouds ideas and made them real. And I have always fancied myself a visionary. I like to come up with ideas and be creative. In my intro, you mentioned just a handful of the creative services that I dabble in, but um, this idea that you need somebody to help you bring those ideas to life became really prevalent, and I became very aware of it when my partner was like, "Hey, listen, I'm the one who's kind of creating the ideas, and you're the one who keeps like turning them into these robot processes." And you know, we had this ongoing running joke of he's the guy who kind of has all the ideas, and I'm the robot that makes those ideas come to life. The crazy part about all of this is, and fast forward now probably 4 or 5 years, this new mogul hits this scene, and I get that he's been around for a while, but he was very new to me, Alex Hermosi. And one of the
Mhm.
things that he came up on, like the big thing that helped him find his success, was licensing a system and process that he created for growing gyms. And so it was there where I had that light bulb moment where I went, "Oh my goodness, these step by step things that I have created for certain outcomes are e- essentially the very backbone and foundation of the business that I was building." So this idea of kind of jumping in with both feet, not having a clue what I was doing, moving from one space to another, and then mucking about in it, kind of just led me naturally to this place where all of the ideas and all the stuff that was kind of floating around in the ether became tangible. It became solid, became real to me, and then I was able to leverage those systems and processes to build the business more.
I like that. With understanding how important those systems and processes are, and seeing that you could end up licensing them and making oogles and oogles of money like Mr. Hermosi has, um, what have you found to be one of your biggest struggles being a entrepreneur in this space?
Myself, and that's yeah, I know that that's probably not the answer that you were hoping for, but I found
Actually,
that
I wasn't hoping for any type of answer. This is a very interesting answer, so I'm glad you said yourself. Why yourself?
um because I don't know what I'm doing, I second guess it. And I think that's sure, it's part of the human condition. And so the skill that I think I developed along the way that was really helpful or useful in all of this, was getting really good at just being comfortable with being the dummy who didn't know anything. And realized, and it was in that I realized that we're all kind of just winging it. So I entered this space thinking like, oh, because I never went to college. I dropped out of high school. I was like, school was not the thing that I excelled at.
Mhm.
So there was, I guess, a chip on my shoulder of this idea that I was never going to be good enough, or I was lacking the knowledge or information that I needed, because you obviously you get that in college, right? You're supposed to get a degree, and that's the stuff that tells you that you can do the thing that you're supposed to do. And so, like accepting very early that that was just not going to be the path that I was going to go on, but also realizing like, yeah, but I'm also pretty smart, I think anyway. I'm good at problem solving. I think I'm resourceful. I can find the things that I need. And this is, proof in the pudding here. I didn't know the first thing about shooting a music video. I went and bought a $500 camera and just started trying it. And then I got as many pieces of free software as I could to mess around, and ended up paying for one of the most expensive suites of software that's out there. And I still have that subscription to this day. But I figured it out along the way. I was able to go to YouTube and look up this idea that I had and see if I could bring it to life. And, oh, how do you do this and how do you do that? And I remember sitting in the bedroom office that we had with one of my buddies, taking this silly video of me on a green screen and like evaporating myself into like ashes and smoke. Like I had been, a spell had been put on me. It was a crazy experience. It took me 18 hours to do this one effect that lasted about 3 seconds on camera. And that's when I realized, okay, maybe this isn't the most fruitful use of my time. But yeah, the idea of I second guessed myself, and it wasn't until I realized that nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody's winging it, in spite of the degrees and the paperwork and everything that everybody has. We're still just out here making it up as we go and hoping for the best. And if that's the case, then anybody can be doing this, is at least what I told myself. And so that kind of eye-opening experience gave me the permission to be like, well, okay, then get in there and get dirty and just see what happens. Because, I watched my dad devote a great deal of his time and effort and knowledge and wisdom and expertise to a company that 20 years later sold to a different company and kicked him out to the curb. And so very early on, I had this impression that, yeah, you can lose everything if you follow the safe path too. You can be left standing on your own, with nothing, because somebody else at the top of the food chain made a decision without thinking about what was that going to happen later on or down the line. And so knowing that, it's like, okay, well, then I just have to take action. I just have to keep trying. I have to keep doing the thing. And so, yeah, being in the biggest challenge I faced was me being in my own way, and then overcoming that was the skill that I developed in understanding that it's okay to fail. And so if it's okay to fail, you got to fail fast, fail frequent, fail forward. I think that was a Will Smith quote that I found a long time ago that helped carry me through some of those more challenging times.
It's a really great quote, and I like the fact that you acknowledge the fact that you had no idea what you were doing. You figured out that no one knows what they're freaking doing in this game, until they hit, they fall onto their process and their procedure, and everything starts moving slowly, and they're like, "Oh, maybe I figured it out." And then life throws you. You get to the next level, and then you're like, "Wait, no, I don't." I want to know, because this is interesting to me, because you're still relatively young in your journey. You're still learning, getting everything's done. You're probably further along than most of our listeners are. However, compared to some of the guests, you're still relatively young in your journey, and I love that, because you're still figuring shit out, which is the most important thing in our life, is just figuring stuff out, what works for us. When you're studying, because I know you're a student of life and of this craft we're in, when you are looking up ideas or you're looking up how to do something, what is the process you go through? Like, do you have a step-by-step process? Let's say a client comes to you, they hand you a request that you haven't you haven't done before. How do you go about, one, do you accept those contracts that you have no idea what you're doing because they're completely out of left field? And if you do take those contracts, how do you go about learning enough so that you're able to provide the value to your clients?
Well, Phil, there's a balance that I have found between knowing enough, knowing too much, and knowing not enough. And it's the knowing enough part that's the important part. So to the two parts, the first part of your question, um, do I take that stuff? If I know enough, yes. If I don't know enough, before I say yes, I find out if I can know enough to say yes. And if I don't know enough to be able to say yes, even in my attempt to try to do that, then I know that it's not a good fit and it's not a promise that I can make. And I like being a man of integrity, or a person who can do the things they say they can do. That has always served me. So making promises I know I can keep, and then okay, if I get to that place where I'm like, I know enough, I can do this thing, then I got to get into it. And I always find myself going through this, the Dunning-Kruger effect thing, where I'm like ambitiously hopeful about the whole thing, right? I can do this. And then I hit the roadblock, right? Whatever it is. There's always a roadblock.
Uh-huh.
Always, no matter what you do, you are going to hit a roadblock or a challenge or a stumble or a thing. There's going to be something, an obstacle, right? In between you and the outcome. And it's what you do right there. That's what really matters, is as you approach that stumble, okay, bam, I'm in the bottom. And most people now, right, that they have that optimism, and then they crash, and then they realize this is way harder than I can do. Most people give up there.
Mhm.
And it's the will to push through that, to kind of get back onto the incline. So you go as far as you can to the point of failure, and as soon as you reach that point of failure, now you have to go into resource mode. So there's a number of different ways you can find the resources that you need. If resourcefulness is not one of the skills that you have, and it is a skill, by the way, this is a thing you can develop and get better at. Well, first, go to the internet. Ask the internet. There's somebody somewhere that has gone through the thing that you're going through. And if you just put the right stream of words together into the Google machine, you're going to find that person who has had that challenge and overcome it. And if it's a common enough challenge, you're actually going to find many, many, many perspectives. And so now you're faced with an even bigger challenge of which of the solutions exist is the right solution. And Gary Vaynerchuk is a like a huge inspiration to me. And one of the things that he says is you just have to make a decision at some point, and stick with the decision, because you're never going to know the outcome any other way. So you have to take as much time as you can to get as much information as you possibly can, but then you still have to go and do the things. So you still have to take action. So you're down here, okay, we pushed through, we found out that yes, this is difficult, this is a thing that I don't understand, but if I figure out the thing and I find the resource I need, now I can start climbing back up that mountain to the now I have like informed optimism. Now I'm like, oh, okay, I realize that it's hard. I also realize I'm capable. I also have overcome, some of the initial challenges. And now from this point forward, it just becomes a wash, rinse, repeat situation. So now I continue on that path until I reach the next obstacle. And you're always going to reach an obstacle. And it's what you do in that moment that kind of defines you as a person, but also it's what defines the outcome. And so I drew this thing for my son a long time ago when I was trying to explain to him how his decisions and actions currently affect him. And so you can imagine, just a regular line graph. And if we're starting right down here in the bottom corner of it, and our goal is to reach, the top right corner of it, the actions that you're taking are going to dictate how close you get to that mark. And so if you give up, well, that action can be most definitely put right here. We're never going to reach the mark. If you keep trying and then eventually give up, well, you're going to get closer, but the actions that you take every single day towards that thing are going to get you there inevitably.
Uh-huh.
So long as you continue to take the action. And this is the thing that we don't see when we're in the mess. All we see is this challenge, it's impossible and it's never going to happen, and so we give up because we've put the thought into, if I continue on this trajectory, I'm never going to reach it. And that's 100% true. if you continue on that trajectory. But if you interrupt that trajectory and you introduce something else, another force, an outside force, which is the resource, right? Somebody else's knowledge or a tool or whatever it is that's going to help you overcome that challenge. Okay, now we've adjusted that trajectory now back to where we're going. So if you do a good job at that and you continue down that path, that outcome is inevitable. I get that I kind of rambled there a little bit. I hope I answered the question though.
You did. You went far above and beyond the answer that I was looking for this question, and provided the resources some people needed when they're facing a challenge. Like, this is a great part because you explain, like, when you face a challenge, yeah, you can stop, but when you start looking for the resources that can help you push past that, because like you said, putting the magic words into Google will get you the answers. Yes, you may have multiple answers, but it will get you the answers. Another trick I found is very useful is going to Reddit and putting the wrong answer. They correct you really quickly, but at the same time, it allows you to see where your idea is wrong, because you have, everybody loves correcting people. This is something I found out in life. But with Reddit, it offers you that opportunity to get like the front page of the internet. You know, you have access to millions and millions of people who are willing to correct you or help you, depending on how you frame your question and responses to that. Where are you going? What is the plan? I know you've mentioned your son, and I'm pretty sure you want to be one of those dads that are always there for him. I want to look on the business side. Where do you want to take Seven Tree Media? What is the kind of like the over the moon goal for Seven Tree Media?
All of this was an effort to help support a dream. And I don't know if you couldn't tell, but I'm a musician, love music. I sing. I used to
I couldn't
rap.
see the drum behind you. It didn't pop up at all.
Yeah. So it's that's kind of the dream was I want to make music and I want to be able to perform my music for people and I want to be able to have an impact in people's lives and maybe it isn't through music. Maybe it is through a different path, but that I've always seen it as one of the best ways for me to be able to communicate um, and dissect the human experience. And when I was a kid, I thought one day I was going to be a teacher, and I always learned things. And when I learned things, I always had this habit of trying to find people to teach these things to. And at the top of the show, you mentioned that one of my weird hobbies is studying psychology and the the social condition and it's because I never really understood it. I had a hard time growing up. I didn't fit in. I had a very weird social circle. The only people that would be my friend were the people who I probably shouldn't have been friends with to begin with. So there was a lot of challenges that I faced in the way of that, which kind of led me down that path of like, okay, well, I want to be the guy that 14-year-old me needed. When I was lost and struggling and couldn't figure it out. And you know what's funny about that is it's not just 14-year-old me because there's a 25-year-old version of me out there somewhere that also is struggling and facing challenges and doesn't know what to do. And I know I know deeply what that's like. And so I have this sense that I made it out. I know that sounds I don't know. It sounds made up. It sounds fake. It sounds like somebody who just got invited on a podcast wants to say something for a soundbite. But the truth is, over the things that I have kind of struggled with in my life, I have found things that have helped me understand it from a different perspective. And now that I'm, let's say on the 100th floor of this building, I have, 1,000 more floors to go, but there's still people on the 7th floor looking out the window going, "Is this it?" And
Mhm.
I'm up here going, "No, it's not." You know, if if you want to, I can kind of show you some of the stuff, and I feel like I kind of have a duty or a responsibility or a purpose in life to be able to do that. And so all of this is in an effort to, first of all, I know how difficult it is to start a business, run a business, find customers, and do that thing. So I figured if I can help other people do that and find some kind of security or freedom or purpose in their lives, that's a really great way to have a positive impact on the zeitgeist. Beyond that, if I can find other ways to help people through the things that I've learned and through the experiences that I've had, that's what gives me the purpose that I have, or the will, or the drive, or the whatever it is that keeps me going. Even though some days I sit down in front of the computer and I'm like, oh my god, not this again. Um, it's that's that intrinsic value of knowing that I can have an impact on somebody's life somewhere. If it's in this podcast, amazing. If it's in the next one I do, even better. And if I can continue to be afforded these opportunities, then all I can do is fulfill that purpose and be grateful for the opportunity to do that.
I love that. I love that. Um, we're gonna go kind of a bit more on the business side of things. Um, I want to know, what is your style of lead gen? What do you do to bring in those potential customers?
Okay, so here's here's the meat and potatoes of it then. Um, there's there's stages, and we're all kind of, anybody that's in the business space is like aware of the different stages, but that the execution of those different stages is going to be different for every business. And so the challenge and what we do is to help identify what that path looks like. So the first thing is you got to map out what the customer experience looks like. And I don't just mean like how you're going to serve that customer. Like, okay, they've become a customer, we're going to do XYZ for them. That's like the last 10% of it. The first 90% of it is, where are we going to find these people, and how are we going to connect with them in a way that's meaningful, in a way that delivers value, in a way that establishes that we understand that person's problems, and then also in a way that we can help illuminate what solutions may exist. And then, okay, so if we find you here and you have this problem and you're looking for it here, here, and here, we know what that looks like. And so let's put stuff here, here, and here that will find you, so that you can start to solve that problem, or start to understand it, so that you can make a better or a more informed decision. And because our business is the one doing that for you, you are more likely to want to work with us, because we're kind of guiding you through that whole thing. So I can only use me as as an example here. If I wanted to find a business owner who's having problems with, let's say, getting customers, well, the first thing we got to do is look at um, how they're showing up to their customers. So if they're showing up to their customers, uh, first of all, if you're not online producing content on social media and active, when somebody looks for you, you look like a dead business. You look like
Mhm.
a business that isn't functioning anymore. And so people are way less inclined to want to work with you. So now we got to create content that serves that group of people, so that when they get there, they go, oh, they are doing that thing. They do know about my problems, and they do know about the solutions. Okay, so now we've got a marketing qualified lead. So we just took somebody from the ether and gave them something and helped them raise their hand and go, yes, actually, this is a problem and I do need one of these solutions, but I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, now we can market our solutions to that person. Now we can say, hey, if this is your problem, XYZ is the solutions to this. Those are the potentials. Um, from there, you get to make a decision. So if you can pick one of these three things, or you're interested in one of these three things, let us know. And then we can kind of walk you through what that looks like to have that problem solved. Okay, now they become sales qualified. Now they're qualified for somebody to sell something to them. So now you get on the phone, or you meet them in person, or you're on Zoom, or whatever it is, you have that conversation with that person one on one. And now you help guide them through making a decision. And this is where a lot of businesses get it wrong. They think that this part of it is sales, and when really it's like a doctor, it's like a prescription. I don't go to the doctor because I'm curious about whether or not my broken leg should have a cast put on it.
Yeah, usually you already know you need a cast.
Right. So when I'm at that point, I'm ready to make a decision. I need the doctor to give me the options, right? Okay, here's we can tape 2 sticks to your leg, right? That's
Yeah.
cheap. We can put it in a splint, help you elevate it, and you can go home and hope for the best. And like, okay, that's better, but it's not the best solution, right? And then the final option is, oh, we can use this material here. It's space age, whatever technology that as soon as we get it wet, we'll wrap it around your leg, and then in minutes it's going to turn into a cast. You can stay in that cast for 6 weeks. You come back and da 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 da. And okay, you know what? I like that option. That one's going to give me the best result. What does it cost? And now we're working together. And so taking that approach of, hey, who's out there that has this problem? Hey, okay, good. Now we can market to you. Now who in here is motivated to make a decision? Good. We have people you can talk to help you solve that problem. And now that we are talking to you, which solution do you want? Good. Now we got a solution that fixes. So this is mapping out that whole entire path that your customer is going to follow. When you have that mapped out, now we have a process that we can optimize, because now we can see at each step what's happening, and then we can test and tweak little tiny things each step of the way. So I'm going to give you this example. There's this real estate concierge service, and the idea is that if you're buying or selling your home, you come to this company, and this company is going to guide you through the process, connect you with all the right professionals who are pre-vetted. And you're just going to have your hand held all the way through the thing. You don't have to worry about a thing. Every step of the way, you're good. So we map out that whole process, and we go, okay, this is what it's going to look like. People are going to be searching or Googling these terms. Then they're going to find this page. They're going to get on this page. They're going to learn about it. And from there, they're going to make a decision on whether or not they want to participate in this program. If they want to participate in the program, we're going to take them to the next step, which is we get on the phone with them, we have a conversation with them, and we figure out what their needs are and if we can help them. If we can help them move forward, we can do that. If we can't help them move forward, we have backup solutions for that. And now if it's because you couldn't pre-qualify for a mortgage, let's say, for example, then we're going to give you the tools or put the resources in your hand that you're going to need to get better credit, so that you can pre-qualify for that mortgage when the time comes, when you're in a better position to do that. So we put together a page that is basically saying, hey, XYZ, this is what the situation is. Give me name, phone number, email, and somebody will reach out to you. We put that page up, we start sending traffic to it, and we find out that page is only converting at like 3%. Now, if you don't know much about this, these pages should be converting at an industry average of about 30%. If you can get anything better than 30%, you're a rock star. But the kind of goal is, let's get to 30%. So we send about 100 people through this page, and we get this number, and we realize, okay, something's wrong with the page. The ad's working really well. We're getting a super high click-through rate, and a lot of traffic's landing on that page. Let's look at what's happening on that page. We change the headline. We boost it up to 5%. Okay, that's good. We changed the little bulleted list of things that yeah, actually, it's funny. I got the thing. We mapped it out on a piece of paper right here of the whole process of buying or selling a home. And so we put those in point form instead of a different thing. We had results as opposed to like actual specific steps. And as soon as we put the specific steps in the right order, the conversion rate went up to 26.8% overnight.
Whew.
So now, from every 100 people that come through, instead of getting 2 people, we got 26. And that's incredibly powerful for that business. Now that business has okay, what's happening on the next step, right? And so this is how we go through that, and why a system and a process is so important, is because understanding the experience that your customer is having, and then looking at where your funnel is leaking, where people are leaving, why they are making that decision, all of that fuels making better decisions about how your business acquires its customers. And then the next place from that is, after you've sold that customer the idea, are you winging it? You know what I mean? Or do you have documented things, the steps that are going to happen next for that customer? Because if you are winging it, A, your customer is going to have a really bad time. B, you're going to have an even worse time. C, the likelihood that you're going to get a testimonial or a referral from that customer is like 1%. Because they don't feel like you understood the problem. They don't feel like they were properly nurtured through that process. They don't feel like this was a remarkable experience. And so if you want somebody to remark on your customer, or sorry, your experience, well, then the experience has to be elevated. And the only way to elevate that experience is to map it out in a meaningful way. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense to me. Hopefully, it makes sense to the audience. But I
Yes.
think you explained it well enough, pardon me, for the audience to understand and get a understanding. And I didn't want you to go too deep into it because we do want to give that little tease for them to come to you and the Seven Tree Media to get that taken care of and get that journey done properly by someone who's done it quite extensively. We are coming to the end of the episode, which again, I hate because Devin, I'm having a great time chatting with you, enjoying the lessons and the knowledge that you're sharing. We're going to go with my favorite question. I have your 10-year-old self beside me. What advice are you giving him?
Ooh. There was a quote that I heard accidentally in a weird clip on TikTok, but it has stuck with me in such a deep and dramatic way that if I knew this earlier, I think it would have changed a lot of things significantly in my life. So 10-year-old me, if you're listening to this, never attribute to malice what can be attributed to ignorance or stupidity.
That is insanely deep.
Yeah. People have their own stuff going on, and most of the time they're caught up in it. And it isn't until you take a step back and look for it that you see it, that you see the pain and anguish and anger and sadness that are in people everywhere they go. And if you look for it and you see it, it really starts to make your pain and your suffering and your trauma look really, really, really small. And I think that that's what gave me the fuel for the fire that I have, the passion that I have for trying to help people. Because when I like, trust me, I've been through a lot of crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. But all of it pales in comparison to the thought that there are millions of people walking around lost, with no hope, with no love, with no support. They hate themselves, they're down on themselves, they don't believe in themselves. And who am I to worry about my little things when that big of a problem exists in the world? So I don't take it personally. It's not you, it's them. And because of that, you now have the power to go out and do something about it. And if you don't, that's on you.
That is some heavy advice for a 10-year-old, but also for the rest of us who should have learned it when we were 10. Other people have bigger problems than you, and they're not out to hurt you. They're just dealing with their pain. Devin, I'm going to jump off stage here and try and come to terms with what you just laid down on me. If you could let my audience know where they can connect with you, how they can support you, or you know what, find the path and procedures that you can help them with, the floor, sir, is yours.
Yeah, I like to put my money where my mouth is, and by saying that, um, one of the things that I try to do is provide as much value in as many ways as I possibly can for as many people as I can. And I know that there's a lot of barriers between where you might be at and the help that you need. And if that barrier is financial, I have free things that I can give you that will help. I have resources that I can share with you that will expand your perspective. I have tools that I can give you that can make things easier. If you are in a position to be able to invest in things that you're building or working on, I'm happy to schedule a call and have that conversation with you to see if maybe I'm a good fit. And if I'm not, as Phil said at the very top of the show, I'm happy to point you in the right direction and connect you with the right people or the right resources. And you know what? If you have come to terms with the fact that maybe the marketing is just not your forte and you want somebody to handle it, by all means, reach out. You can get in touch with me or my team by visiting seventreemedia.com. And on that landing page, you'll find a number of different cool free resources and ways that you can get in touch with me. And I think that's the best way that we can kick off a relationship.
I love that. I love how you're pointing it as a relationship, because that's what it is. It's a growing relationship between two people. Devon, I can't thank you enough for being here a second time chatting with me and sharing more wisdom than I was expecting. Thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, Phil, it was an absolute pleasure. And I hope that whatever I've shared here has some impact on the people watching and listening.
Whether it has impact on them is up to them, but I know it had an impact on me, and I appreciate you greatly for being here today and sharing some more words of wisdom with my audience. Speaking of my audience, make sure you guys check out the show notes down below, because that's the only way you're going to be able to connect with Devon. Get to the Seven Tree Media and connect with him on all those social medias. And I thank you all for listening. Thank you, Devon, again for being here. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.